But if you do shadow work, and I implore you, do the shadow work, your life in magic is going to be so much easier. That's what we're looking at today because, shocker, I have opinions. I'm also going to show you how to do it in detail. Just quickly, how I go about it is I look at the things that make me uncomfortable. I ask myself why, and then through journaling or a mental journey, I come to terms with that aspect of myself. A lot of mystical people are always like, do your shadow work, do your shadow work. But like, what does that mean? And why is it so controversial in the witchcraft community? People say it's only necessary if you're following a Jungian psychological model of witchcraft, and other people say it's completely necessary. It's the core spinal cord of your practice. Which one is it? Well, it's a little bit of both. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was coined by Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, so that's true. The term shadow work really means integrating the shadow self into your psyche, integrating parts of yourself together, the unconscious parts together. And you can look the rest up because this is not a history channel. So do you have to do it if you want to practice witchcraft? No, you don't. You can have super effective spells without doing shadow work, but in my opinion, your life gets better when you do shadow work and your magic gets better as well. You don't have to agree with me, you can be wrong. What is the shadow? The shadow self is the parts of you that you were told were incorrect, directly or indirectly, from society, from your family, etc., that they were not acceptable. If you were told to stay still repeatedly as a kid, that fun, fidgety part gets added to the shadow self, like a little bit of Play-Doh into the shadow self. If you see that gay people are harassed, if you have any attraction to the same gender, that can also be pushed into the shadow self. What I find really interesting about the shadow self, though, is when it is pushed into the shadow self, instead of disappearing, those parts get pushed away from your line of vision, sure, but they don't stay quiet. They start ruling your life from the shadows. We see them rear their heads in behavior like self-sabotage, unexplained emotional reactions, irrational anger over small things, patterns that don't make logical sense that keep happening. The anger one really fascinates me because it reminds me of a study where homophobic men were shown homosexual images while their physiological responses were measured. The most outwardly homophobic men showed the strongest arousal responses. And that's the thing about the shadow. It doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. In fact, ignoring it makes it stronger. Looking at you, conservative politicians, who are a little... You know who I'm talking about. Our shadow can hide parts of us from ourselves. It doesn't hide our behavior, and it doesn't hide it from other people. There are signs if you know what to look for. And honestly, once you start noticing it, you start noticing everywhere, in everyone. Really great way to do shadow work is pick an area of your life that you would like to improve on. And if you want to follow along, I've created a free PDF downloadable to guide you through this process with questions and prompts. The link is in the description. So let's choose money because I love money. We're going to go through how shadow work improves your life in general, your habitual patterns, and then we'll go through the magic aspect. So let's say I earn enough money for my daily job, but I always seem to come up short at the end of the month for my bills. That's likely the shadow self acting out in a way that reflects an internalized shame. Let's say in this particular situation, I tend to buy small items at the store whenever I feel bad because it makes me feel better. And this demonstrates a few aspects of the shadow. Perhaps I do not feel safe in asking others for support when I feel down, showing an internalized shame about my place in the world and a distrust of those around me. Perhaps I feel insecure in my ability to care for myself, and so I outsource that care to items I find at the store. This ironically reinforces my inability to care for myself in paying for my bills and expenses fully, even though I make enough money. You can translate this situation into shadow speak. I just made that up. So the aspects that would be present in the shadow and not fully expressed or integrated into the conscious self, they would be trust in self to soothe and care for self, and trust in others to soothe and care for self. In this example, you can see that it's really not about money. It's about you. It's about your personality. It's about your experiences. It's about how you feel about yourself, about how you feel about yourself in the world. And that's the shadow. Shadow work pulls the aspects of yourself that you do not want to look at, you're afraid to look at, and it pulls them into the light so that you can inspect them and hug them until they meld with your conscious self. This makes your life a lot easier because you're no longer self-sabotaging, and more parts of you are able to ask for and receive what they need. From a magical perspective, it makes your magical life a lot easier because you know where to put your energy and your focus in your spells or in your rituals. So say before you do shadow work, you feel like you don't have enough money. You do some spells for money, you get money. Congratulations. But you still don't have enough for your bills at the end of the month for some reason. And that's because you still have the same problem of spending more than you receive and your bills keep going up. In this example, you can see that the problem is not fixed by your magic. That's not going to go away until you integrate that part of yourself and stop feeling shame about asking for help or, whatever your specific issue is. So really, I kind of lied. So shadow work helps you be able to be more strategic with your spell work, and it helps you understand your psychological lay of the land, so to speak. I actually also have another video about Magickal Strategy. If you would like to watch that, you can go to my page and watch that. So yeah, like I said before, you can have an effective spell work and magic and not do shadow work. But if you do shadow work, and I implore you, do the shadow work, your life in magic is going to be so much easier. And that's just a fact. Basically, it's a process of noticing emotional reaction and patterns and being curious about where it's coming from and what it's telling you. Everyone has their own special mix of what's in their shadow. And if you're still a little confused, there's a free PDF in the description if you'd like to download that. It's got a process where it can walk you through, and there's places where you can write the specific situation, example questions, like I said. In my opinion, shadow work is like coming out of the closet in those small aspects that you were told to or you were shown to be ashamed of, integrating that and holding those aspects. Whenever you clear all of that stuff out and bring it into the light, you can more easily deploy your spell strategy and get really, really, really effective magical workings. And if you want to hear more about that, like I said, there is a video about that, so you can watch that next. And until next time, it's been the Witch of Whimsy. Have a responsible, whimsical day.